The Battle of Nördlingen, fought on September 6, 1634, was one of the most decisive and blood-soaked battles of the 30 Years' War, a conflict that had already ravaged the heart of Europe for over a decade. The clash occurred near the small but strategically significant town of Nördlingen in southern Germany, in the Duchy of Swabia, and marked a turning point not only in the military campaign but in the broader political and religious landscape of Europe. At the heart of this monumental confrontation were two opposing coalitions. On one side stood the Protestant army, led by the experienced Swedish Field Marshal Gustav Horn and the ambitious German commander Bernhard of Saxe-Weimar. Their forces, made up of around 26,000 troops, were composed of Swedish regulars, German Protestant soldiers, and a number of mercenaries. On the other side stood the Catholic Habsburg alliance, a formidable coalition made up of the imperial army under Ferdinand of Hungary, son of Emperor Ferdinand II, and the elite Spanish forces led by his cousin, the Cardinal-Infante Ferdinand of Spain, who had recently arrived with a seasoned corps from the Spanish Netherlands via the so-called Spanish Road. Their combined force numbered approximately 33,000 men, including some of the most disciplined and battle-hardened troops in Europe, the Spanish tercios, whose reputation for battlefield dominance had been forged in the wars of the previous century. The strategic context of the battle was critical. Sweden, since entering the war in 1630 under King Gustavus Adolphus, had achieved a string of impressive victories and had extended Protestant influence deep into the Holy Roman Empire. However, with the king's death at the Battle of Lutzen in 1632, Swedish leadership passed to his generals, who continued the war effort but with increasing difficulties. The Habsburgs, eager to reverse their losses and reassert Catholic dominance, coordinated a massive counteroffensive. The Cardinal-Infante's arrival with reinforcements was a game-changer. Marching through northern Italy and up the Rhine, the Spanish army joined with the imperial forces to lay siege to the town of Nördlingen, hoping to draw the Protestants into a decisive battle. Horn and Bernhard, despite having inferior numbers and intelligence reports that underestimated the enemy's true strength, decided to confront the besieging army. They feared that if Nördlingen fell, the Habsburgs would break Protestant resistance in southern Germany altogether. Confident from past successes, and perhaps driven by political pressure and the need to maintain Swedish prestige, they resolved to attack rather than wait for reinforcements. The terrain around Nördlingen played a vital role in the battle's outcome. The Catholic forces had entrenched themselves on a series of wooded hills, with their right anchored on the heavily fortified Albach Hill. This position was not only elevated and ideal for artillery placement, but it was also densely defended by the Spanish tercios, who were dug in behind fieldworks, ready to repel any assault. Horn's plan relied on a powerful flanking attack to seize the Albach and turn the enemy's right. At dawn, on the morning of September 6, the Protestant forces launched their assault under heavy fog, hoping to catch the enemy off guard. What followed was a day of grueling and chaotic combat. The first assaults against the Albach were met with fierce resistance. The Spanish tercios, arranged in their traditional squares, absorbed wave after wave of Protestant attacks, repelling them with disciplined musket volleys, close combat, and unwavering cohesion. The fighting raged for hours, with the Swedes managing to take portions of the hill at times, only to be driven back by desperate counterattacks. The Protestant cavalry attempted to exploit any gaps, but the Catholic cavalry, commanded by Ottavio Piccolomini and Matthias Gallas, responded with devastating charges of their own. As the sun climbed higher and the fog lifted, the true scale of the Protestant predicament became clear. Their frontal assault had failed to break the Catholic line, and their reserves were being drained faster than expected. In the late afternoon, the Catholic commanders launched their counteroffensive. With the Protestants exhausted and disorganized, the Imperial and Spanish cavalry swept down from the flanks, crushing the enemy lines with a brutal envelopment maneuver. The Protestant infantry broke ranks, many throwing down their weapons in retreat or surrender. Horn's corps was surrounded and eventually forced to surrender. He was captured and taken prisoner. Bernhard of Saxe-Weimar managed to escape with a fraction of the army, retreating in disarray. The losses were staggering. The Protestant army suffered over 12,000 casualties, killed, wounded, or captured, while the Catholic coalition lost fewer than 4,000. Among the dead lay the hopes of Swedish dominance in Germany. The aftermath was just as devastating as the battle itself. Sweden's Protestant allies in southern Germany, fearing retribution and no longer confident in Swedish protection, defected or made peace with the emperor. The road to Protestant unity and military success in the empire had been shattered in a single day. The most significant consequence of the Battle of Nördlingen was diplomatic. Alarmed by the Habsburg victory and the rise of Catholic power in Central Europe, Cardinal Richelieu led France to abandon neutrality and declare war on Spain in 1635. This transformed the 30 Years' War from a religious conflict into a broader struggle between European powers, marking the start of a new, more destructive phase of the war.